This documentary by Killer Chronicles is mind-bending. It's a highly recommended watch. These guys go into so much detail that they only really post like once a month. It is a fascinating story, what I think is about corruption, gang violence, music, and guilt. I don't want to spoil anything, so I'm going to be leaving a lot of it out. I don't want to take anything away from their hard work. But they introduce us to this inmate who is serving life in prison. His name is Gabriel Snoop Roberson, who was just recently denied parole for another 10 years. The idea is Antioch police believe that he was a suspect in a murder that happened back in the mid-90s. Due to his Norteño membership, they allege that him and another gunman went to a quinceañera where there were Sureños and opened fire, with one person being killed and others wounded. They say that this is in retaliation to a shooting that happened previously where he was at a party with his Norteño friends, where Sureños showed up and shot at them and shot and paralyzed his friend Ray Ramirez. Ray Ramirez would actually end up later dying. The thing is, Snoop alleged that he was never there. He left right after the shooting, and still to this day, decades later, has maintained his innocence. Meanwhile, his friend and associate, Woody, this guy right here in the white, starts a rap career where he produces, mixes, writes, all of it himself. And he's a solid one. He goes through great lengths to talk about this case, and he talks about how innocent Snoop is to get him free. He uses his music, he uses interviews to talk about this case, he uses funds to get attorneys to help with the case. And if not only for Snoop, but also his friend Blackbird. Blackbird was another Norteño that Woody spoke a lot about in his music. He was a very close friend and also the younger brother of Ray Ramirez, the man that was shot at the party that Snoop was at, and police suspect is the second gunman. However, due to another murder case, he actually flees and disappears for 4 years. So at this point, Antioch police are absolutely desperate because they have two suspects who they have no identification of, and it's been 2 years since the shooting and the case is starting to get cold. So the officer that's on the case actually goes to prison to visit Snoop, who's in prison for a different reason, and hounds him to get a confession to the murder. He never gives a confession, and originally he was never even questioned, but nonetheless he still gets convicted anyways. And to give you an idea of just how corrupt this system can be, Blackbird actually does end up dying in 1998 when he comes back to Antioch, where he barricades himself in a home with his two daughters in a standoff with the police. It is ruled a murdered self-unaliving, where police say that he unalived his children, then himself, with a firearm, missing the fact that the coroner's report stated that there were 3 wounds in the back of his head, with one of them even being a graze. Either way, Woody would actually go on to find massive success as a rapper, and he is a legend in the Bay Area, and he would continue to make music and speak on Snoop and Blackbird's behalf. But you do have to wonder, why did the police suspect Snoop? And that's because one of the victims from the quinceañera said that the suspect was a palish white guy with brownish reddish hair. And yes, it came from the victim who was shot, but they also had several beers that night, to the point where jurors weren't even convinced by his identification. But you could see where things possibly could have gotten mixed up.